finish your thought. I can't stop.
I can't stop playing this game. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop looking stuff up on the internet of like, I just want to see the things that people are doing.
Yeah.
First hours of the game like that are not always the best to show off because they are very railroad. Like, hey, you need to do these things.
Yeah.
It's an achievement again. They did it again. And it's amazing that they did it again because personally for me, Breath of the Wild was the 3D Zelda that made me go, okay, this is right in line with the ones I love.
Yeah.
Because of the way they made a whole world and just said, just go out there. And in the first game, when you had the shrines, when you had those powers that they allowed you to kind of do stuff, they really stuck to an ethos of, if you find a solution, it's always valid. There is no like, hey, you didn't do it the way we designed, so I'm sorry, that just won't count. Mm-hmm. They would do things like, you got to get this ball in this little pedestal over here, and that will unlock the door. And they have a whole, here's what we intended you to do.
Yeah.
If you somehow froze it in time and did the thing where you hit it in the arrow and you just blasted it over there and it went in, they go, well, we don't care.
Yeah.
If you were to somehow able to bypass the locked door because you threw yourself over the thing, it would go, unlocked. Okay, you made it in. They not only keep that 100%, now they have built the whole game around, we're just going to give you a bunch of Lego pieces and go ahead and make whatever you want to get that.
That's great.
And again, this is a thing where there are people I know that are going to be like, I don't want to build stuff. I don't want my weapons to break.
That's me.
I don't want to be dropped in an endless ocean and can go anywhere I want. I get it. It is that game, though.
Yeah. I'm still excited to play this.
Yeah, you remember in Breath of the Wild where I loved this, but they were like, here's your quest marker. Beat the game.
Yeah.
And it's just like, here's Ganon's castle, or here's Hyrule Castle, Ganon's there.
Point, yeah.
You can go there right now if you want. He will kill you.
Yeah.
Now, their first little... I thought that, like, the marker, I was like, okay, that's where I need to go at the end. It's like, no. I stayed away for too long. If you want to, follow the markers. Because they're just doing the story.
Okay.
And so you can... And they unlock a bunch of abilities for you when you do it. So, this whole building thing, crafting whatever you want, they're so smart about it because they've got all these little deposits around the world of like they were rebuilding the kingdom from the last game.
Okay.
So they're just like, hey, we put out wood and wheels and like and planks.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Okay.
And then they came up with this genius puzzle structure where throughout the open world you will find Koroks, the little Koroks.
Yep.
There'll be a big fat one with a big camping pack and he's stuck. And he's like, I'm trying to get to my buddy. And he points and he's like, my buddy's over there. And now you're just like, oh, that's why I can build a cart. That's why I can build a flying machine. That's why I can build a catapult. Yeah. And they literally are like, we don't care how you get this guy over there. Just get him over there and you get that's the puzzle.
You get a little rupee.
And you get to do, and it's so great because you're like, I'm going to put this guy on a rocket and I'm going to shoot him over there. People have made multi-stage rockets like that they soar into space. A guy made a Gundam where it's literally a mech that he is piloting as Link.
Gosh.
And he is destroying everything in his path. Like it's almost unfair. What I will say about the game though right now, it's brutally difficult.
Really?
I am dying in every fight encounter I get into.
That's
every single
welcome,
one
though, right? Because Zelda's have always been a little too easy in the combat area.
It is until you go like, oh, I don't know how to beat these guys.
Yeah.
But again, they make rules and everyone abides by the rules. And this is I'm going to give you guys a pro tip. This is Josh's pro tip. You have an ability, instead of, in the old game, you could freeze something and like store up momentum if you hit it. You don't have that ability anymore. What you have instead is now the ability to freeze something in place and reverse its time stream. Wow. So like if something fell, you can reverse it so that it goes back up. That's what they showed. I just want to tell everyone, if there's a big dude throwing rocks at you, you can freeze the rocks. And the rocks will go back to where they came from, which is generally his head. That's free. You can just have that. There's no cooldown on that power. It does very little damage, but it's so cool that you can do that.
Well, that's not very realistic, because if a rock hit your head, you would have a big owie.
It would, but these are big troll monster guys. So
that sounds awesome.
It's a goblin boss.
Let me ask you one more question then.
Sure.
So it sounds like with what you're describing, there is a qualitatively different experience, but still similar enough to Breath of the Wild.
100%.
Because I think one thing that it looks like it could be is a $70 piece of DLC. Like
It is-
Breath of the Wild 1.5, but
It's not that. It's so not that. And I know it's the same map.
yeah.
It's so radically different because, one, they have changed the world around. Everything fell from the sky. There's big parts of the world where there's huge ruins that weren't there before.
Cool.
But your tool set is so different.
Okay, let me ask you this question. I have heard that the performance on the Switch leaves a lot to be desired.
Much better than the first game.
Really?
I have had very little problems.
Really?
I'm playing docked and undocked, and I'm playing on both a launch Switch and a Switch Lite.
I don't mind if frames dip and all of that stuff. I'm not hardcore about it's got to be 60 FPS locked and everything. I want it to be that way.
I would love it to be.
But it doesn't bother me that it's not.
It's much better than Breath of the Wild. Okay. When you start getting a little bit crazy with your master hand and building some crazy stuff, the frames will dip. But I'm not doing that as often as... most of the time, the things I make either fall apart or don't do what I wanted them to do.
Okay.
So I still got to get a little bit better than that. So the building, I think people will be like, it's kind of frustrating. I can build this thing, and then what do I do with it? It rolled down a hill, whatever. Just keep playing the game. They give you things later on to make your builds a lot more useful.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Just a fantastic game. It's incredible.
Well, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to jumping into it. I'm probably going to play a lot more Breath of the Wild before I do. I just wanted to secure a collector's edition, to be honest.
I almost don't think that I would if I were you.
Okay, well, I'll play both then.
There's a lot of people that have asked, like, should I play the first game if I'd never played it? I almost would say just go into this one. You'll get a lot of the same feel.
Yeah.
And I think you will burn yourself out for this game.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because it is similar in a lot of ways, but I think this game has so much more interesting stuff happening.
Okay.
And the fusing of weapons, every single material in the game is now a thing you can either fuse to an arrow,
yeah,
or put on the end of a stick. It's incredible.
Okay. So let me ask you this.
Amazing.
Could you go back to Breath of the Wild and still have a good experience?
Yeah. You do have a motorcycle in Breath of the Wild, which is pretty cool.
Which there may be something like that in Tears.
Could be, or you can also just make one.
That's the interesting thing about it, right? Like, it sounds like Breath of the Wild is the foundation.
Yes.
And this is now...
But I think this is a better game.
Yeah.
And I think it's got a much better story in that there's a lot more story stuff actually happening.
That's great.
So, like, there's cutscenes that you go to places and people are talking to you. This is my recommendation to anyone playing this game. If you're like a completionist, if you're obsessed with it, just throw all that away. Play the game. Literally play it as a stream of consciousness. That looks cool. I'm going to go over there right now. I'm going to go over here right now.
I like that.
Just experience it. Let your whims guide you. Because there's no place in that game that you can go where something's not happening. But it can be frustrating if you're like, I really want this, because it's so far away.
That's cool.
Just explore, look around, find what you find. There's something around every corner. It is a game that does feel like you could play it forever and maybe still never see everything.